Well then, here we are back in the Mittenrahm tour. Back at the Mittenrahm tour, I suppose. It's I think we're about halfway through. Those of you who may be picking this up now, the previous half will be preserved and available, so you may want to check that out as well. There's no real need to watch them one after the other. I'm basically in the edge of what's called the Waycore, or Western Territory of the central part of the empire, and I stopped it there because I'm about to enter the region of the Wylde Way, and then beyond that, that would leave me with just the Wayorahn and Northern to go to, which kind of halfway through, but the Northern Empire is quite full and much closer to being really a finished part of the project than anywhere else, so probably going to take a little while longer than other locations I've been to. But having said that, let's crack on with it. You know, I'm not sure if this is natural. I think it might be. I think I'm going to knock this away and there's going to be sand. Yeah, there we go. It's just a sand hill like covered, encased. But anyway, as I say, we're going to be heading, at this point we're heading south. We're basically hitting the very edge of the Waycore. Part of an area called the Morel, which is a region of water and forest. It covers an extensive piece of land and connects to a place called the Wylde Way, which is really just a very large expanse of forest. And then and we're going to have to go that way because, oh, I know what's down there. What was I saying? Yeah, forest. And I think in lore terms, the Wylde Way and the Morel were once a single stretch of land, unbroken forest, or trees rather. So even when it breaks for the water, like a swamp, there's still trees growing in the swamp. So basically, trees. And itself actually connects to a piece that's outside of the empire, which is called the Wylde Way. It is a region that the Grey Knights don't go into. They've kind of gone, this is as far as we want to go here, and that's it. I think this is like a point where they can pass each other, like a junction. I don't know. A lot of this is just decoration for the road, which I think will stop before we get where we're going. I'm trying to remember where we're going. Oh yeah, I just said, I think I know where we're going. A natural thing. I don't like filling these things in or destroying them. They have to be incorporated. It's as if the Grey Knights themselves aren't willing to do that kind of damage. Another piece of map corruption. As I explained yesterday, basically, well, I called it map corruption. It's just chunk updates. I think that's the term that most people use. The seed changed, and you get dumped with this. Just a gaping hole where the biomes suddenly change. I know Mojang very recently put in coding that it can blend this stuff if it happens in the future, or when it happens in the future even. But I'm left with gaping holes, which I'm probably going to cure with World Edit, or World Editor of some kind. Probably repair the damage so that the river is preserved, and then just find a way to slowly fill this in to create a lake, and then call it quits. So I'm going into a piece that has not really had a lot of work done. Got markers down. I don't think they've even got torches on. Yeah, this... I'm not really sure where I was planning to go with this, in that sense. It's just, I think I put builds out here and I needed a way, you know, I wanted a road. A lot of what I've done in the past has revolved around building a road to a location and building things along the way. In Extreme Hills cases, I almost always build straight into the side. So even though this is kind of tacked onto the side, they'll probably be, if I come back here and finish it properly, you know, because this is a natural space, which I've just sort of incorporated into part of the build. But I'll probably knock through and actually build some rooms within the wall itself. It's quite a nice place. You can see I've marked things out. I probably intended for a building to be on here, but I probably did this 5 years ago, maybe. Probably about the same time I did the second phase at Corran, the capital. Now these things, I was intending to try and create a standard design that I could use to make noticeable markers, so that the site of the road could be picked up more easily. Because my road's 3 wide. The simple reason for this is the villager roads are 3 wide, and that's what I went with. A lot of my decisions, a lot of the thought process emerges directly out of structures that already existed in Minecraft at the time. So, you know, I've not resisted that. I've kind of stayed with it as much as possible. I think this is the... No, I'm not actually sure it has a name. It's basically a body of water between, well, whatever we're in now. I don't even know what to call where we are now. Yeah. So that's, it's a done. It's going to come back to me. Okay, Dana. Is it Dunagona? Dunacropper we've been to. Rhoman we've been to. Dunagona? I feel like I missed somewhere. I'm sure there's supposed to be a desert build. I'm gonna have to look at the map. Probably too far south for it. 1 second, let me open the map. Siskawara was the other side of the map, the lake that we passed that was corrupt, I think. Yeah, we're at Donagona now. According to this, there's a building back behind me. That doesn't look right. It's not named, but it's marked. Tiny little images. Let me get rid of... 1 second, I know you can't see the map, and I should really do something about that, but I'm not going to. Yeah, weird. In the forest. I have to go take a look. Because either the map's wrong or there's something I've forgotten about. So where are we? Yeah. This way. Yeah, this was Siskawara. No idea what the purpose of the name is. Siskawara. The Kerr is definitely the reference to the desert. Siskawara. Ra is the town, so it's Cisco. So it's Sis Desert Town. No idea what the Sis is for. A lot of the naming has some pretty standard conventions at this point. Sanctification of Siskoara. Cisco was maybe a person? Maybe that's what I was thinking? Oh, look at that, I missed that. This was a through road from the to Wayorahn. Yeah, there's the Wayorahn over there. But the road doesn't go anywhere, okay. Yeah. Where is... oh, okay, there's the road there. Oh, I see, it comes up through the hole. Wow. This could be one of the advantages of having such a large empire that I don't visit all of very often. I kind of just like explore it myself sometimes and rediscover it a little bit. So obviously natural tunnel. I do like to do this when I can. I think it's just an approach that the Grey Knights have. One flaw with this concept is that the Grey Knights were not here first. The Grey Knight Empire has absorbed multiple kingdoms, so it seemed kind of weird that the kingdoms would have done certain things that would only be something that the Grey Knights would do. This is a lesson in world building. Be consistent. If you've got a group of people who have a certain viewpoint or philosophy, make sure that they stick to it, and that you don't give it to other people, because that just muddles things a little bit. Siskoara. Is it a reference to the lava? I don't know. It's quite nice. I got a bit fancy with this one, didn't I? You can see that there's a gap in the middle. Yeah, this is another shield that I've repurposed as a marking the site of a battle. And to be fair, I should probably borrow some battles, real life ones, stick them in and, tell a little bit of the story from what's happened to some of these locations. Because the shields that I'm repurposing, they should have a story behind them, I'm saying that, they're battles, but that's pretty vague. I think it deserves more than just that. And I think I've worked out that the thing I think on the map that I've marked as if it was a building waiting to be named is in fact this shield. So, yeah, I'm going to have to remove that because it's not actually a building. I can see why it's marked, though, with glowstone. It'd be nice to do something here. Anyway, let's get back on track. You can see this is a point where I really didn't have a firm, consistent or likable means of road building through the desert. So I intended to just mark a route with stones and then not actually put a path in. So yeah, as I said, this is done at Agona, very remote part of the Empire in some sense. Difficult to get here, not particularly worth getting to. You can see that it is ruined. We only have one intact statue. The other one has had its sword break off and landed in the ground. And then I think the other two are just sort of meant to be implied. Possibly hadn't been stolen away, not uncommon. The facing stones for the pyramids at Giza were stolen after an earthquake to help rebuild Cairo, so it's one of the advantages of having some idea about what's gone on in the real world. It's very easy then to borrow into fantasy worlds and give them an air of reality to them. I used to do that, collecting bits and pieces that would drop while I was here, just sticking them in a chest somewhere, not necessarily out in the open, but somewhere. So yeah, this is mostly underground. The necropolis is obviously abandoned. That would mean it predates the Grey Knights, but would then make me question why there appears to be a Grey Knight statue. The Grey Knight Empire has existed by this point. When I finished it, when I have all of the builds that I want, bearing in mind that I'm telling a story that will be the finale to the Grey Knight story, that it's probably been around for 200 to 300 years. So there's room for something to have just simply been abandoned. Maybe there's more zombies like there was in Wylderan. I never really thought about it too much. But yeah, this one goes down pretty deep. We're not quite at the bottom of the map, but pretty close. I think I want to do something down here. It's marked somewhere in a notebook to, just a list of things I would like to do. Ideas for future builds. The thing about this place, because it cuts into the ravine, and the ravine is part of the project, the ravine itself needs extra done to it, which I've done in other places. It's a lot of work, a lot of refacing. You always have to remove like all of the blocks, and then you put them back, but different. And it's like that makes it so much more work. Yeah, so this is pretty standard design. There's some confusion in my head here. Like, I'm opening up onto little caves, and then like acting like they didn't rebuild the cave. It's like, well, why wouldn't they? It's like, why not build the room properly? So it's kind of odd that, my desire to not knock out terrain is producing slightly unusual features in builds. I'm noticing, yeah, this one's 2x3. This one would be 2x3, or be 3x4, 2x4. These are all 2x5. Weird. I'm not sure if that's intentional or I'm just not keeping track. I think this is just access to the upper floor. Yeah, this is heavily modelled on some dungeons in World of Warcraft. This concept, a lot of the Aztec-style dungeons in what's the swamp called? Swamp of Sorrows. Can't remember the name of the dungeon at the east end of the Swamp of Sorrows. Oh, is that stairs? Yeah, stairs. But yeah, it just goes on and on like this. It's not much. I always usually accept that. I have had an idea many times that this would function as a Hall of Fame. People who want to be, rather than adding the hall, I simply add a grave in one of the dungeons, one of these places. Can I go down any further? No, I'm on the bottom. I think it's this way it opens out into more. Yeah. So again, I think they would incorporate this into the dungeon, and this may explain why they were attacked by zombies. Zombies, I don't know, finding their way underground, becoming dormant, and then resurrect. Well, not resurrecting, but coming back to life due to the disturbance, and then causing all this havoc. This is a little resting man. You may have seen a couple of these in the previous video. Never dwelled on them, but he's called the resting man. He's a product of a thing I used to do in survival. Went like this. Bed, sleep, wake up, poke a hole, make sure nothing's around. And then when I was knocking it away in the morning, intending to just walk away with all of the material, I would be left with this, and I was like, I like this. So I left it behind as a marker for places that I've stayed. And why does that look like natural light? Because it is. Oh, you son of a... God damn it. Actually, I should probably go this way because I've got to go upstairs otherwise. Oh. Seems strange. What is this from? Why is it there? Is there another way in? Oh, I see. Wait. What in there? Yeah. I think I may have got on board. Building something that's ruined is less interesting. Because you don't end up with a finished product in the same way. If I'm going to spend 10 minutes each build, it's going to take me several weeks if I keep this up. So yeah, moving on. Bitten taller, I think, something along those lines. It's obviously a readout that, again, in a similar fashion to other places, they have kind of settled around the base of the readout. This is also a toil, based on what I'm looking at. You see, resting men. And then I think this is probably letting us down into the whatever's down here. A nice torn up set of tunnels. Letting us quite far down. Yep. Can see why I decided I had to build here. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I could see myself coming back here at some point and kind of closing off the extent, the edges, so that we have a closed space. Anybody who's played Minecraft for a while knows what the old tunnel generation is like. You just keep going one tunnel to the next, crisscrossing over on previous ones. I mean, you can still do that in the new stuff, but it's much bigger and more open. In this stuff, it's just a nightmare to explore. So yeah, I would probably want to, make something of that location. It would also be a potential location for cutting down into the deep slate. Yeah, an unusual piece of ruin for me. I remember doing it, trying to think what the reason was. Oh, there we go, that would be the reason. This tower fell down. I see, the readout itself is ruined. This would suggest the readout is significantly older than the Grey Knights. Probably been here for several hundred years more, and they just simply, well, somebody used it afterwards. We're probably in a kingdom that was probably not fully part of the Grey Knight Empire. Again, this is something. This was probably natural, and I've dressed it up quite a bit. But this doesn't look right. Have I prepared something? I don't know. It could obviously be done much better. There's a much better set of blocks that are available. We probably weren't around when that was done. Is there something behind it? Yeah, I thought so. It's nice. So where are we next? Now, believe it or not, where we're going is actually 400 or 500 blocks, probably that way. Probably not even that. But we're actually going to take the long route, because we'll miss stuff if we don't. Yeah, unfortunately this this little tour would go quicker if I had just planned the route to fly around. But I don't. So here we are. Oh, now that is rare. I don't think I've even noticed this before. Well, if I had, it'd probably be glowstone all over the place. What have we got down here? Oh, look at that. Oh, that is nice. Oh, it does this a little bit more too. You know, this is just a natural... I thought it was a cave that had come up in just the right spot, but it's actually just a fold in the extreme hills. I do miss the old extreme hills. The newer ones, I mean, the way that they do cave generation now, you get this sort of thing all over the place, and it's just like enormous and stuff. And it would be nice if that was available in parts of the Empire at least. Oh, this is nice too. But, you know, not much I can do about it. It's a 13-year-old project in a game that's been constantly updated and changed. I have to accept certain realities, like the fact that if I want a cherry tree grove in my empire, I will have to build one. Or grow one. Something along those lines. Oops. Alright then, where are we going next? Alright, just cutting through the bottom of Sorrenthal. Soren, rather. This is Kiram. This was built at the same time as the road was done. I basically got this far and then put up Kiram before moving on. I think there may have been something added. I've obviously put down even more as a suggestion of additional builds. I'm not sure what this is. I mean, it's an interesting floor design, but what on earth would it have been for? I mean, the shape doesn't suggest anything. Weird. That would need something done about it at some point. So we're heading now south again, in the direction of what I was waving the cursor at, saying it was quite close, but we were going to take the long route. Probably shouldn't have taken the long route. So this is Cochrane, or just the edge of Cochrane. It's well, it's a settlement, a region on the south coast of well, Cochrane is technically the name of the town, city rather. The region overall is called the Wyldetor, or the Wyldetor. There's a few buildings here, but it's not like super elaborate. I don't know why I got so fond of buildings that go over the road. I mean, I like the overhang, but why is the main road always coming through these builds? I saw you. I don't know. I really need to, 'cause in reality, roads do that. In the older days, a road would go through a town until the town gets too big and the armies are too big, and then they start doing roads that go past the town. But it's anyway. So there's a sort of collection of different types of buildings. These have probably been here a very long time in terms of the in-game lore, although they were probably built last, maybe. And the same with this. This is part of the Grey Knight Enderman beef. The original story was that the Grey Knights killed the End Dragon, and the Endermen were very upset about this. So the Endermen would basically sabotage things. And in this case, they dropped a mountain on top of this building. But that's all out the window. I mean, the Endermen could still have done it, but they can't do it for the reasons I'm explaining. The main reason being that the End Dragon that we know is not alive at the moment. She is yet to be born. So a little bit of infrastructure for basically maybe developing bits of this, maybe some farmland, sheep, you know. No idea what the brown is for. Roadway? Because this is going into the Wyldetor. Somewhere over there, just beyond the fog is Aghanar, so. But as you can see, I stalled a little bit. It's a sign I had too many questions and no real answers. This is one of those occasions where I tried to be a little bit more planned about what I was doing. A little bit more of an idea about what was going where. So you got fort on the coast, obviously. Not that it's defending much. This is what happens when you play with an 8 render distance for a while. You don't realize that you're basically building a fortress to protect a bay that nobody can get into. I mean, it wouldn't be too difficult to solve. You just come along and cut that out, and it becomes much easier to get through into that region. That's a jungle temple, probably been flagged for doing some rebuilding, turning it into something a little bit more grandiose. Did I take out part of the window? Yeah, I took out part of the window. Right here. What is he even holding? Well, I guess we'll never know. Oh yeah, there's an underground here. I mean, there's an underground in many of the, not in many of the places, but I think I showed off part of the underground for the main line between the west and the east yesterday. I think this is just a ring route that goes around underneath Corran rather. It lets you get from one part to another. But there's a second, one of the stations, the main station in, has a separate line that will go north and connect to the main west line, which is entirely underground. This is a theatre. It's done a couple of them. Bit stony for a theatre. I think it maybe have a little bit more colour, a lot more wood. It's I kind of like it though. I like the way it came out. This is one place, obviously. Again, I mentioned this yesterday at other locations. I need boats. One thing I need is generic boats. A boat type that I can place with 2 or 3 boat types, small, medium, and large, that I can just unpack from a structure block and then use it to fill around 1 or 2 large ships. So I do a couple of custom vessels here, and then use some standard templates to put in a few more. I don't know if this was the first quadrithesia, but it was definitely one of the more prominent ones where I was really thinking that this is going to become a standard feature of a lot of locations. This one is all stone, tends to represent the age of it. Even if it's a recent build, it's meant to hark back to an older point. but you can see the basic structure. 4 halls, connecting ring, center tower, and the ring's quite thick on this one. It's usually not much better than a hallway sometimes. And farmland. Don't know why I'm so obsessed with being squared off like this. I mean, this is like the most efficient use of water. This is the extent to which a single block of water can fertilize or keep the ground fertile to take crops. I have done other locations where I'm a lot more organic with just following the line of a terrain level. So, you know, there'd be wheat all over this level and then they'd be down on this level. And yeah, it could do with more because it's a little bit bland at the moment the way that it is. I could do with just covering this whole field. It'd be a nice way to finish this. And then this is just a small mining facility in a little nook in the ground, a little gap between 2 small risers. And I give this a name? Probably not. Oh, this is quite a zoomed in map, isn't it? Yeah, we're up there. Sign. Is there a sign? I put a sign up. Nope. I really need to adopt that habit. There are markers to take this road through to where I want it. But there's nothing out here except for one very small temple, which I ought to put on stream for the sake of being thorough, but I'm not going to. It ultimately connects back to the main north, the main western road, which, you know, I was talking about this yesterday. That was a goal here, to put branches in the road. I mean, this one's quite extensive, that take you away from the main set of buildings into completely new regions. And so yeah, we've got just one of those little manor houses watching over the road, little dock, because there's something out here. Why is there a dock? I don't know. See, that's the bridge that was just visible. There's the tower for that town. Huh. Anyway. Do you know what? I think that this is here because I actually made this journey in survival. I think I crossed the water here in a boat, and the boat stayed here, so I built a dock house later when I came back in creative. This is one of the few totally unfinished builds. There are a lot of builds that, like the city, that's got a few places that I never finished what I was working on, but this is just like, yeah, I think I got muddled, and like, I don't know where this is going, what this is for. You know, I just got so fed up with being just unable to resolve what this was or for, or, you know, any of that stuff, and I was just like, solid. So I left, and that was years ago. I mean, anything at this point is years ago because I've been in the end for 2 years. I did spot the bridge over here. I wonder how far we are away from the temple. Not much. Totally not going to be worth it. I think it's a water temple, based on its location mostly. Oh, I see. It's 2. Oh no, that's like a... It's almost like a lighthouse, I think. This is the air temple. Oh, which was just the other side of a hill. That's nice. Yeah, this was the water temple. The idea is you would dive off into the water as part of some ritual. You can see you've got the edge of the... It was very strange to me that they had this idea that the ocean monuments would be retroactively added to worlds. I mean, this was built afterwards, so that's okay, but people must have lost buildings or had them damaged because of an ocean monument being dumped in. I've got them inland in some parts of the map. Some parts of land I go over and I'm like, there should be something here, shouldn't there? Like, this is plains. There'd be people living here. There'd be a settlement of some kind, something small. I mean, I know this is here, but still. It's a reminder that the Empire is... Ooh, Stormguard. I think it's Stormguard. No, got no name. I lost a couple of horses, so... And then I stopped naming them. So, unfortunately... But, yeah, I did set up a system of, like, a relay at one point. The idea was I would ride one horse to one location and then ride the next horse from there. Which is obviously real. That's, you know, that's how journeys were made. There would be multiple stages to them and horses would be supplied, but still. You can see this is a very old road that I did because there's no real decoration, which is not unusual, but the glowstone just embedded into the middle of the path is kind of odd. So this is the Wylde Way Abbey, probably called the Wylde Way Lie, technically. It's based on a real building. I say based, it's... I mean, okay, the real thing doesn't have wood, but different color as well, but still. Oh. Yeah, we'll check out the Waymar later. There's a couple of builds in the Waymar I've forgotten about. But this was off the coast of Soren, and I should have gone there before coming here. I think. No, wait. Am I off the coast of Soren? Time to consult the map again. Where am I? Where's Soren? There's Soren. Yeah, I should have gone across to Iconos while we were there, looking at Soren. Whoops. We'll have to do that now before I forget. So anyway, as I was saying, real world building. It's an abbey in Devon. I've forgotten the name of it now. It's structurally approximately the right shape. Courtyards, the cloisters, the additional buildings and things sticking on. As weird as this looks, this is part of the existing abbey. It's an extension to the end. It's like a second chapel. I've never been completely clear why it was done. I think this may have been the first time I did this, where it's based on a real building. Buckfast, that's the real name. Buckfast Abbey in Devon. Buckfast, I think, is named after the stags. It turned out, I'd never really thought about it before, because we tend to think of monasteries being very austere and stuff. But this room, I think, is a mess hall in the actual building. It is super colourful. Like, it's got designs all over the place, all over the walls. You know, it would be impossible to recreate in Minecraft. You'd have to make the room like 20 times its normal size to do. This is one of the places where I discovered that the windows were lagging me out. It used to have a fuller set, but I removed them because the alpha bending was screwing with me. I've got a much better computer, even if it was still doing some, even if it was still intensive. I would be able to deal with it a little better now. But now there is one thing to show down here in particular. Where are we? I think we need to go into the cloister. Yeah, here we go. The hyperway, the underway. Yeah, so this is a major junction here. This is the scenic route, as I like to call it. Basically, the scenic route will stop at major buildings, and then you can just get back on and go in your own merry way. But we've also got the through route, which I think is probably going to be this one, that will just simply go from what would be Corran to a place called Crossroads. But then this extra line was added later, and this line will go to a place called Rhoman, which we may hopefully get to see sometime later. So yeah, it's quite the connection point here. I was kind of obsessed with it. I really did want it. I just love the idea of the underground and stuff. So yeah, we're going to hop across to Iconos. Iconos is the name of the island. Going to need to veer because we're going to fly into Northern. Oh yeah, we'll take a look at it. This is just a simple chapel on a shield. Oramax, I think it's called. This region is also going to get some dressing up when I get done. You know, this anything that looks too barren is most likely already flagged for just adding stuff. I'm here. Okay, I need to go straight north. I think the town is called Soleri, and this is the Wild Hammer. Again, I pointed this out a couple of times yesterday. This ship is about 20 blocks too short for the depth that it is. It's too stubby. Probably do with putting a structure block here, and shunting this back 10 or 15 blocks and building something here instead. Probably be better to do it here so I don't waste my time with this. But just shunt this back, copy this, flip it, and just stitch it back together again. I don't know if that would be enough. Something that I could also do would probably maybe yank back this upper part. I can imagine that me doing, I mean, I've mentioned world editors a couple of times. There's a lot that I can probably do with the world editor just beyond terrain modifications. It's another location where I went wild with placing as many doors as possible. Stables are good. Stables get 2 doors. Excuse to put 2 doors down. This train station actually connects to the line that I was just talking about. That central point that I said goes to Rhoman, because it's only a single line, it stops at the other locations, and this is one of them before it goes on to Rhoman. Couple of boats, couple of paddle wheels. I should have come back and done this, because I couldn't finish this at the time because waterlogging obviously didn't exist, but it does now, so it's possible to actually complete this pattern all the way through into the water. You can see that even this water-based boat is too deep for its size. This guy's quite thick, quite a wide ship, a bit stubby still. I think I have improved that. I was self-conscious enough to actually start doing something about it, and not just be lazy and go, oh, it's too late. Huh. I was just sat here thinking, I think that these lights are supposed to go on in rotation, but it's actually that they just come on when the sun's out, when the moon's out. I mentioned yesterday, for some reason, random chunks appearing in different locations, borrowed from another piece of land. This is one of them. You can just about see the square. I hacked it away to make it just a little mound in the water. But again, very close to losing something when that happened. Alright, let's get back on track. I need to remember that when we get back around to Wayorahn, when I'm actually at Wayran itself, the city, I need to cut across to Rhoman. And we are going to take a detour here, but we'll have to come back, because if I do it the other way around, I think it will be too long. I'm okay with the stubbiness on this one. It's meant to resemble a slightly old-fashioned steam train, but it's definitely in need of something, which I've been aware of for a long time, and you can see I experimented with closing off some of these gaps. I don't really know why they're open. They are. I'm not sure what the intent was, but I think this just needs a little extra to help break it up. It's just too much of a wall. So I'm going to need to look at the name of this. Wyldetor. Well, there you go. So Wyldetor is it's basically a border. This bridge is the only land-based connection to the Wylde Way, which is that region that they don't like to go into. Never really established why. Just that vague idea that there's something wrong south of here, or there's something that has made it very clear they don't wish to be disturbed, so they don't go south. But they're obviously clearly a little bit concerned about it coming north. Hence the giant fort. This is all one building, it's all interconnected. You can get through gaps in the openings in the hillside and so on. what that was for. And this I originally meant to cut through, and there was just no way to do it. Can do with some andesite here. Just shove it in a little bit, break that up. Mass stables for the cavalry that would presumably be here, ready to go south. Yeah, we're going to get to this at some point. Definitely needs some windows and a little bit of color. Some of the, it's okay for a single building which you would expect to be a single color, like a cathedral, or just an older single thing, but there's just too little color on something this size. I mentioned these. There's a couple of swamps we've been through where these are present. These are the first ones done. I think they're the 7 daughters of Slothor. Slothor was a giant, rumored to be sleeping somewhere underneath these hills. It occurred to me that maybe that's Dagath, the Lord of the Earth, or a reference to him. I came up with a series of short stories called There Once Were Giants. And essentially, they're borrowing existing stories and retelling them with a giant in the key role, or something along those lines. And I think this is the only one that made it into the world. The book's up in the top of this tower. It's a tower of. Is it David? I want to say David, but I know Tower of Gideon. Yeah, there was like I discovered that the game, a sign in the game said it was a Tower of David, or I kept telling people that it was the Tower of David, but the map actually calls it the Tower of Gideon. Nice. Get a little bit abstract, a little unusual. It's quite old. It's another one of those ones built as I went along the road, and this was, I think, one of the first roads done. I think that to complete this build, I would need to do something with this space. I've tried to do this with some of the other tight mountain rivers that exist. I know Minecraft, modern Minecraft has taken steps to avoid this as well. Yeah, I think this could do with some decorating, just to give it a little bit more of a setting for it. This is an old one. Yeah, I name them every year when I can find them. Anything that spawns near where I'm working. This is actually unfinished. Like other places, it's just one of those cases where I could not really get a handle on what on earth the point of it was. Some old lighting bug. They used to come and go depending on, you know, bug fixes, but I'm sure they've cured it now. You can just permanently get rid of them if you come across them, although they become very rare in the Empire. I think maybe the point here was that this is all that's left from whoever maybe lived in this. Getting to that point that there seems to be some sort of missing third party in the story. A group whose presence is still, whose after, God, what's the word? Impact in the world is still to be found, but they themselves are gone. And I'm thinking that there may have been dwarves, and that they have maybe largely disappeared, or they may still exist, but they can only be found in small pockets, often living near the underground facilities that they used to build. Something along those lines. See, this is what I was talking about with the ocean monuments. Imagine if I'd had a build on this. I mean, this gap that they put in that cuts out all the way around, I mean, it seems like it only goes to sea level, which is a blessing, but still, what on earth were they thinking? I'll probably deal with this by simply burying it. Just dump a whole load of sand on it and pretend it's not there. Although I do want to modify one. I want to find one in a good location, do some work on it. And I've got an idea, I've got a clear idea of what I want to do on it. So this is the Wylde Monastery, so called because the Wyn is a river. It's on the other side of the building. Well, actually no, it's nearby to the building. Just approximate. Wylde adjacent, or Wyn adjacent. Tiny little thing over here. Oh, I think I may have been playing in survival here. It's a good indication that I have, because I marked the building with a variant of the English flag. Unless I'm maybe meant to come back. Bed there. Could have just been using that to sleep. I don't know. But yeah, probably one of the biggest lies that there are. I wanted to take up the hilltop, which is how I usually approach it, but I think in this one I really started to be like, I'm gonna stick it out a little bit, and I'm gonna bring down supports, you know, and give myself more room to build with, rather than just go, oh, I don't have enough space to put that in. Not sure, I think this was supposed to just be buildings. Just a couple of buildings. I think you can get through here if I open it up. Yeah, I imagine that was the intention. This is one of those, again, one of those locations where I could do with some stuff. You know, I could do with putting in maybe some interesting trees. Something organic, not like a creature or something, but, you know, it's something that makes the biome interesting to pass through. What's the name of this? It's Wylde. Waylai. Well, it should be pronounced Waylai, but I pronounce it Waylay because, you know, it's funny. Now, this has been used as a survival base. I think none of this is natural. I think I planted this, but I came back here and went into the underground. And oh yeah, good. Kind of wondered for a moment why on earth that was all there, and it was like, oh, it's an ender chest. Yeah, this is what I found underground. Although I think it's also been raided at a later date during another misadventure. Look, internal decoration. It's not really. So the suit of armor that I used while I was here, I put it on an armor stand before going back into creative mode. Huh. What are we? Just a tower, I think. Just a tower where you might expect a tower. Something to look out across the coastline. That sort of thing. Oops. Come on. Here we go. Now, this goes north into the main bulk of Wayorahn, because we basically entered Wayorahn now. But we're going to go south. Trying to think which way Crossroads is. Crossroads must be north of here. It's another survival base. No idea what I got out of this one. I may have raided it. I hope that was not the full extent. There we go, it's a little better. Yeah. Yeah, can see why I marked this. It's such a nice space. But again, it seems kind of a shame to fill it with a building though. And the buildings, like I've said, I just end up trying to fill the space as best as possible. Like, maybe if I just find something to do with it that just looks more interesting, without necessarily being a building. This is another sanctification. Don't think I'm going to bring the name to mind. But it's not marked. So all those ones that I can't remember the name of that aren't marked. It's okay, time to consult the map. Oh, we're not there anymore. And past that, we've gone past Wylde and Waylay. I've missed the lonely dock, not much of an issue. And we are actually heading toward Crossroads. We're actually closer to Wayorahn, but we're going to end up going around in a circle anyway, so it doesn't matter. Rukiros. Rukiros. It's basically the desert sand sanctification. Couple of just silly little buildings that basically somebody going, you know, I live here, sort of thing, on the top of a hill, which probably gets freezing cold, instead of being sheltered somewhere practical. I think I discovered there was a series of pools here, like this one, and I connected them together and made some of them bigger. Just brought the water all the way down, and you know, to the lowest point. And this is kind of what I'm talking about with doing stuff in biomes. Just finding a way to put something in that's interesting, but not building. Yeah, we're about to go in a large circle, so we'll actually see that in a little while. We'll be coming back down this road. I kind of ummed and ahed about how much of the desert I want to do this to, because although the Northern Empire is sat on an older, a newer continent that has savanna, the main part of the empire does not. This is, oh yeah, check out how old these are. Look at that. Wool markings on the desert temple. But yeah, I want to. I try to incorporate these as much as possible, so they're real. This one's a bit iffy because it's like it's kind of buried in the side of a mountain. It's like nobody would put this here. So maybe the best thing I can do with this location is just simply hide it. Knock away anything that stands out too much, cover over the rest, and just forget about it. You know, it gets a bit too silly if I try to incorporate everything. Like the ocean monuments, there's far too many of them to be doing anything with all of them. You know, unless I have a consistent story about what they are, what's the point? It's easier to explain one, you know, and work off of that. I think this goes to the Lonely Dock. Stops being a road entirely very quickly. Here we go. Tiny little spot. There's got to be a reason why I put this here. Is there something out here? Of course there is. I've veered north. I forgot that. I need to look at the map again. I veered really far north of where the actual road, of where the actual underground network is. Here we go. Unfortunately, the window does not fit the application. That's annoying. Okay, scuffed as that is, we are, where are we now? We're at the place called the Lonely Dock. So, I think that's, I'm trying to determine if the cursor is even visible. Oh right, there we go. Yeah, we're at the Lonely Dock here. Let's flip that back to Minecraft. You know, while I was looking at the fucking map, I could have looked if there was actually anything out here. Oh, there we go. Yeah. This is built, I mean, it's a mine shaft, but it also connects to the rail system. And was never finished. I say this every time I come back here. I have no idea why I walked away while that was half done. I don't think there's an easy way to get down, so I'm not going to bother. Right then. So this is Crossroads. Multiple phases of work here, minor stuff. You know, coming back and adding a little bit of a building to one location, but it's expanded well beyond what I originally did. This is the line I've been talking about. It's a double layer. The other one is actually completely underground still, only comes up when it reaches the station. And actually, at this point, although they run side by side for most of the route, as we approach this location, I stacked them to accommodate the fact that it stays underground. So yeah, this is the station over here. You can see the elevated one is oh, which one would it be? It's the elevated one, the scenic, or the direct route? You know, I think there couldn't have been much of a choice, because this was a later edition. I'm sure that originally you only had this route to the Wylde Way Abbey, and at the Wylde Way Abbey you got the two options: to go straight to Corran, or to continue stopping at buildings. As you can see, I don't do myself any favours at all, and you know, usefully mark which routes are which. I'm a menace to myself when it comes to this sort of stuff. So we got our little lie over here. It's probably a bit sizable for the size of the town, but I think I imagine as Crossroads that it is actually quite busy. Maybe a lot of through traffic, you know, that sort of thing. And decided to encase it entirely in a wall. Don't know why. Looking to obviously expand, put up a couple of houses, kind of maybe play around working out what else is here. I think I'm intending to bring this northward to connect to a I think there's a desert town a little way north of here where you can actually get on another line that will take you to Wayorahn. So I'm assuming that my intention was to actually put that in place. So we've got double routes here, loops within loops, which, you know, exactly what I was going for, but a little bit of a headache sometimes. This was more chunk updates. I've done quite a bit of work here, getting rid of it. It's just this one little piece left. Copying over chunks to fill in the space. Given that this isn't natural, and maybe the Enderman did that. Anyway, where are we? Okay, we're going to follow this one. I'm actually going to come back here and put some stones in, like big ones, just arranged like somebody was bored, because they were. Going to be something Dagath did, I think. Originally it was going to be a closed-in settlement, but when I put this up, I was like, I can't build a settlement with this sat here. I mean, I could, but I'm going to put farmland in all the way around as well. And then you got this over here, just the bridge house. Oh yeah, and then this is that's what I was talking about with the dungeons. This is a desert temple. I've already showed one off yesterday. It's yeah, nice. I don't know who it belongs to. I'm really not sure if this is meant to be something that goes with the Grey Knights or, you know, just older, because it's been hundreds of years before the Grey Knights. So, you know, totally plenty of room for this sort of thing to belong to somebody else. But, what am I doing? And, but yeah, I went with pretty, obviously. Yeah, I like this. It's nice. Now, these structures, these two here, there's another one over there. This was for hunting slimes. Never really panned out. Didn't really like the way that it didn't really work. I think this is called the Trillinth. It's very erroneous. There's 5 pillars in the first place, but again, I think this was the very first time I did this sort of thing in the swamp. And again, you know, going back to that whole idea, just something interesting as you go by. There's some more chunk updates going on over here. Don't name this because this is a fire and forget type of build. I put it up, but I don't really need to be here or come back to it. Winford, thank you for naming it past me. Oh yeah, the wall. Now we're gonna kind of ignore the wall for a moment. It's going to be there. We're going to be able to see it, but just pretend you can't. It's another mining facility. A nice big hole that just happened to open up onto actual mine shaft. That's nice. So, oh, I renamed this place because it was Mittenrahm originally, and I'm sure I altered that name to be, there we go, Marshallton. Let me throw up the map for a moment so you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so we're here, and we just made the route from Crossroads down here. Looks like I've actually got the road on the map. Wow. And we're going this way. We're going to go all the way up to Kaz, and actually beyond. Yeah, we're going to be just south of the Tower of Gideon in the end, before turning around and essentially coming all the way back, following the wall. Quite an old build. The core of it is anyway. There's virtually everything that's not part of this inner structure. This one here was added at a much later date. Probably about the same time I was building the wall. For a long time, actually, what was sat here wasn't even finished. It was just the framework, and it took forever before I actually bothered to come back and do it. Is there anything keeping him that interesting down here? Could be, but not. This would be Organka. Believe it or not, I built this before seeing Castlevania. I do actually imagine that there is some sort of mad scientist was in it. No idea what he was up to, but he lived there. And hey, if, you know, he kept to himself, that's good. There is a line here. Where on earth does this go? Maybe it doesn't go anywhere? What's north of here? Wait, does this connect to the western line? I don't remember doing it. I'm going to follow this a little bit with the suspicion that it's just going to end suddenly. But I'm not sure. I do vaguely remember actually digging all of this out. The question is, how far does it go? I actually connected it to the western line. Let's follow this. This is actually quite open compared to the rest of the mines. To the rest of the network. I just grew this. I used the minecart ride several times to begin with. Well, this doesn't go anywhere, so why does it stop? Weird, did I not? Wow. But anyway, as I was saying, oh, this is the center of a mine shaft. Okay, so yeah, I traveled along the mine cart rides for quite some time, and eventually I think I just reached that point where I was like, it's too tight, it's too claustrophobic, which is why this one doesn't have any central columns, and it makes it considerably easier to fly down. Well, that looks ominously black. Nice. Okay, I'm traveling west now. I'm going to come up in the middle of somewhere we've been. And I'm going to... I mean, I regret it now. I'm totally regret the fact that we've gone down this tunnel. I can't tell where we're going. I feel like we're going around in a circle. Oh, thank God for that. Where are we? I have no idea where this is ended. I mean... This is the main north. The main north, main western route. I mean, this goes down. What's down? It's just a way of getting here. Okay, that's fair enough. Makes sense. I swear, if this has kind of come up somewhere... Oh, I'm under Wyldetor. Yeah, I've connected to the Wyldetor part of the line. This is the mining facility in the middle of the lake with a missing roof. Yeah, I actually decorated some of the mine shafts with meant to be granite in origin. Okay, great. So I've gone all the way back to Wyldetor. Come on. Where are you? There we go. Okay, I admit, it seemed further. I felt like we went around in a great big circle at one point. It was weird. I should probably put a sign on that station and say, don't go down here. Okay, we're nearly there. Now, across this body of water, we'd probably best go this way first. But across this body of water is actually the Wyldetor. There we go. There's the edge of Wyldetor. And essentially this wall exists to block part of the land route to get across into the Wylde Way. And we're going to fly back down it shortly. But there's this little bit here to look at. Would probably want to come back and swap these out for the newer log type that's completely encased, so we don't have to deal with all of this. Just a little bit of a settlement within the region, nothing too grand. And north of us is Tower of Gideon. I believe that there was meant to be a Romeo and Juliet style story here. Although there's nowhere for one of the two to come from. It would seem like they were both in the same house. The idea was that one of them would go to this tower, and while the other one mistakenly went to this tower, and they would basically think the other one had abandoned them, and end up killing themselves, and then, you know, how the rest of the story goes. So yeah, this wall is 4 kilometers long. We are going to go down the whole length of it, possibly flying, maybe just walking. But I'm going to take an AFK first. Anyway. Actually, I'm not going to bother with the book. I'm only going to be a couple of minutes. It's probably... Alright then. Okay, so... yeah, as I say, the intention of the wall is to prevent crossing or landing even. Like a lot of places I do want to come back here though, more so than other locations. You know, there's some buildings I'm just like, that's it, this is what I built at the time. It may not be grand, it may not be up to the scratch of later work, it may not have the scope or the story or whatever. But this is something I'm like, I should have done this at the time. I should have built lower layers using mossy stone and stone bricks, and then used, I mean, now we've got moss as well, it wasn't available at the time, but you know, just do that and work on the bottom of the building to much better integrate it, because this side is old. People aren't coming out here to do anything to touch these walls. You know, they're going to be damaged, weathered, unreplaced. But it should also be done on the other side as well, because it's a lot of wall, and you don't just go around maintaining it every year. A little nook. Couldn't quite... I think I just struggled finding a way to get the road. It seems like... it looks like they built an extension. I think that may have been the intent. Just gonna finish building, I think. Yep. There are a few of them. Oh, another one. Wow, it's really shoddy. If this is marked, I'm gonna scream. Whew. Like, if they'd had signs on saying where they went, and all I needed to do was come this direction first, that would have been so frustrating. Why this is here, I don't know. Well, I mean, I think I built this first, or it was meant to be a tower. I'm not really sure how this... I don't remember the order of events anymore. There are a couple of structures that find themselves on the outside of the wall now. The wall has tried to be built on top of the ridges so that it has an advantage where possible. I wonder what happens. I've got to do it. I'm going to see what it looks like. Let's conduct an experiment. We will want, for this experiment, I'm going to give the game away immediately, 1 bone mill and 1 moss block. And what do we do? Oops, got to be on top of it. Oh, didn't go up the wall. Weird. I wonder why. Could have sworn it can go vertically, maybe. I don't know, maybe it can't actually swap. I know there are some blocks I don't think it can swap. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. I feel like maybe I want to have a, like, buttress, like a second layer. This would probably be easier because I can't stand the idea of coming along and knocking out every single lower block. I could use commands to swap it. I know that that's available. I try not to be too cheap. Like, I try to do the work as much as possible. But yeah, something like that. Put a facade that's fake. A facade that's fake. Wow. The redundant department of redundancy. But yeah, it's, as I said though, it's a 4-kilometer long wall. It's not a small job. The more elaborate I make it, the less inclined I feel to do it. You can see I've actually already done that. Some of it here looks like I'm focusing on the towers. Just one of a couple of marking castles that are basically going, you know, this is the main point plot. This is you know, one of the main points. There's obviously a gap here in the wall, which they're defending, which the river goes through. That's probably why there is a gap. Although it's not necessarily a particularly vulnerable spot. Plus I have barricaded it, so there is that. Because we've also, I'm not actually, oh, I didn't put it all in anyway. I haven't updated since 1.24.4. Optifine fell behind and they released a lot of pre-releases, but no like finished ones, which I wasn't comfortable with. It's possible that I don't need Optifine because I have a more powerful computer now. I would use it still, but I don't really need it, strictly speaking. So, you know, I could get away with it, and I would then be able to actually use things like the new weathered copper bars to actually build that, you know, the way low. And I think this is called the way high. The people who lived in this realm obviously had a preference for being up above, giving themselves good vantage points. I mean, that's a standard way of doing things in any society for this sort of building, but it's another piece of chunk update corruption. This one has been worked on to a degree. You can see where it's hanging because I've only built down 3 or 4 layers and then stopped here, and then I think, yeah, this corner is not natural, it's too bitty. But yeah, as I said, this is the sort of thing I want to do all the way around. Just do the least amount possible to essentially turn them into giant lakes, because this is actually, ironically, when this happened, or some of this happened, they shrunk the continent sizes. I think this is when this happened. In any case, for some reason, almost all of the areas that I didn't explore under 1.3, when they were explored in 1.7, they are ocean. Right in the middle of my continent. I'm like, really? So this is the end of the wall. That's the Wylde Way, still part of it anyway. So you do have an exposed coast, but you would have to get past Endelmarch and the fort here. So plus it's more difficult to get to this point. I think there's only a little bit here, and you're basically back around the coast. But yeah, this is an old place. I may have actually built this first and then took the road back north. This is there was a nice little notch in this extreme hill. See, told you. It's the ones I know the name of that have got signposts. This is a natural space. This is entirely stone. There is actually nothing here, and nothing was removed. So basically this whole thing was open. So you could just see straight into this. But I think it was pretty impressive that it was here. These are just random horses that I spawned. None of them were ever horses that I used. And then you cross to the big fancy house. We'll come back to that in a moment. And then we go over the hill to Endleton. And just a small port town. It should be Endelman. Yeah. Probably Endelman. So this is the Gothicana 2. This was a boat that I was actually extended to create a gap and then duplicated parts of it. Literally there was originally only one pair of smokestacks, so I duplicated it to put the other pairs in. Not intentionally to put the smokestacks in, but because it needed to be longer, which was fine. It was nerve-wracking because there were no structure blocks when I did this. You had to use the clone command. It's still in the game, and if you want to find out why that's nerve-wracking, create a new world and try to use it to do something. You have got to be absolutely sure you know what you're doing with that clone command. Like that you have gotten the exact right coordinates, you have rotated yourself, orientated everything the way that you want it to be. Like in your mind, that you're absolutely sure about how you're moving it. Because if you're not, you're going to have a really bad day. Having said all of that, this change went off without a hitch. I used the clone command to move forward the front of the boat. Had to be done in sections because there's a limit on how many blocks you can move. And yeah. And yeah, this the Gothicania is actually a ship that was on screen yesterday when I was at the beginning of the previous video. It was actually the boat very near to Edenos, the first build, and that's the original Gothicania. And it's possible that this is actually from a moment near the end of the Empire's days, that's later than any other point in the Empire. So not all parts of the Empire represent the same time period, potentially. And this ship was meant to just simply go. It was loaded up on people, supplies, and they were leaving to land somewhere else and start a new life. So this bit over here is another survival base. And this is involved in a story that I'll probably be telling possibly tomorrow at this pace, because I don't know that I'm actually going to get to where I want to be. But yeah, I'd used it a couple of times, but I came back here in the end and really made use of what was going on here. But yeah, so with that done, I need to go back along the road a little way to find the junction. Yeah, this was the original bridge. I ended up on the wrong side. This is probably a mistake. I would probably want to remove this because the wall is, I don't think the Grey Knights built the wall, and it's possible that they never ever really tried to maintain it. So it's possible that when I'm doing the wear at the bottom, that I actually put some holes in it so that it isn't as complete as it used to be, and just have it that the people who used to run this kingdom were the ones who were like, oh no, we need the wall, and though the wall may have not actually had a proper purpose other than to scare the hell out of the people who were living on the one side of the wall, make them afraid of whatever is supposed to be the far side. This is the entrance to a dungeon, proper dungeon, well, a labyrinth actually. I've done a couple of these. They're not very big, but they're basically labyrinths. And in this case, you just need to find your way through this one. I would consider this a phase 3 to the project. I am in what would be considered phase 2. I have built almost all of the major structures. I found a couple of places to jam in a few more, but generally speaking, the big stuff is done. So phase 2 is the infrastructure phase. This is where I come along and I put in little settlements and whatever, farmland and so on. Phase 3 would be putting a little extra in. Another kind of phase of infrastructure, but kind of this is what you would expect to find in a fantasy world. Dungeons. So, you know, I'll build some. This is the Nether Way. I don't know if I have a proper name for the Nether, or a Grey Knight name for the Nether. It's called the Nether Way Gate. It's basically just the West Gate. It is here. It is active. We have to see it in a sec. There we go. Yep. Again, I was explaining yesterday when the Nether update was done, I decided eventually to just delete. Well, I didn't delete it. I basically moved it away and just allowed the game to create a new Nether. The previous one had things in it. There was a lot of time spent in there actually with some building, but nothing that was particularly important or special. And I just decided I'm not going to worry about keeping it. I'm going to reset it and allow new stuff to be done, taking advantage of the, you know, the newer biomes. So that hasn't really, I've done one build in there. It's pretty big, but it's the only one so far. Okay, so we're coming up on, this is Raven Guard. This is a style of tower I started to develop. Anytime I do this, it's never short-lived. It naturally dies off. I start to get to the point where I'm like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. Which is kind of useful because it creates a certain variation across the empire. As long as I remain consistent and I don't use it somewhere else where it shouldn't be, you know, just try to keep up on that side of things, keep it a little realistic. So here we are. This is actually Ravenman. Raven Guard is up there. So we've got a quadrithesia here, pretty extensive one with an actual mage tower in the middle. And it looks like, yeah, I thought there was some sort of hall, I think was meant to be built here. Like a long hall. I may have decided it was just not necessary in the end. You know, I'm filling up space and going, oh, I could put this here, put this there. You've obviously got a shield here to cover. But, you know, I think I just maybe reached that point where I'm like, yeah. In fairness, this the Western Empire does not go west enough. You know, we're looking here. What's all this? This is like quality land to be settling, and nobody's here. Now, it may be that the Grey Knights have just gone, this is far enough. You know, they've got a very stable system, a very stable society. They don't need to be just expanding on and on. You know, they're better organized than that. So it's possible that just the reaches of the Empire are limited, and that there is just empty land beyond it. It's a nice crane. I don't. I do cranes occasionally. There's obviously no boat. Again, another one of those locations that, you know, ought to have a boat. It'd be very silly for there not to be a boat here. I would hate to release the map and sign off on the project, and there'd be places like this where there's like an unfinished build. I mean, even if I didn't finish it, put a bunch of scaffolding in and said, oh, it's in progress, or I just remove it. you know, something, but I can't just leave it like that if this ever becomes available for other people to play or, you know, download and look through. So yeah, boats will have to go into these places. There's no two ways about it, which is one of the problems of building an empire like this, or even a large kingdom, or whatever you want to call it. If you want to do it properly, you're going to have to put extra time in, you know, to do things that you probably don't want to do, but they're a necessary part of what you're doing. See, closed stable door. Oh, no. Thought there might be a horse in there. Now, Ravengard has a story. Where are... Ah, there we go. The corner of this castle, fort, is actually much, much older than the rest of the build. Yeah. Away Ravini. Ravines in the west. I don't know how much is down here. But, look. Actual dungeon. But I put this tower here. I have been down there in survival. And then later I came through while I was doing the road networks, doing the expansion in the west. And just built the rest around it quietly. So I think that may have been for holding my horse. Hold your horses. This is probably an air temple. I would imagine that there were probably griffins throughout these hills. Probably still are. My intention is that griffins are still very much alive and well in the Empire's territories, that they use them actually quite extensively. Even with all their more advanced technology, they still use the griffins. I thought for some reason this was riderless, but apparently not. It must be the one on top of the Colossus that's the one that's got no rider. This one would have been second. The one on the Colossus is the first one, at least within the Empire. But yeah, not too bad. Could do with touching up the wings, using some of the additional stone blocks and andesite and stone itself to actually create a little bit more colour, fading into the iron blocks. I think I make the wings look nicer. This is, I think, was supposed to be modelled on the Victory. It's not very accurate. I mean, it's really got nothing in common with the HMS Victory. Yeah, I don't think it really looks like it at all, even. Maybe? This looks familiar. Maybe loosely based, at best. I picked this up from another builder a very long time ago. I don't remember who I was even watching. So they had this idea that they were teaching. They were going, oh yeah, we can build this. We can make a, you know, an enclosed, like, square of a farm. And there'd be buildings all around the edge of the square. It's a variation of that, but it was a nice idea. It kind of went along quite well with the ideas I have for contained units of buildings where, you know, like you have a communal halls where multiple houses are arranged to face each other and there's no gaps. Things of that nature. Pretty sure that goes nowhere. This was another location that was survival mode. I think this is Cinco de Whale. No, the River Way, no. That can't be right. I have been down here as well. Looks like I decided to dress it up at some point, or at least a little bit. Yeah. However, the rest of what it's attached to came later. And what I did was, I said to myself, I want to build on a single chunk. It doesn't correspond to an actual chunk. and I think I marked out the whole chunk, but I kept the buildings on odd numbers, which is, yeah, there we go. So the building doesn't actually quite come to it, but I don't know. I think I did the best I could to keep it within that parameter. It looks quite nice. I think I also set myself a challenge for time. I think it took maybe half an hour longer than I'd wanted. Maybe an hour and a half. It doesn't sound long enough, but I don't know. Another experiment with a different kind of roadway. You can see I'm artificially making the road broader when it's actually on flat ground by just putting a ledge, so it's kind of looks like it's really a 5x5. So this is Calderon, Calder's Way. Sorry, this whole place is Calder Way. Sorry. This was done as part of the subsequent infrastructure build. Some of what's over here, most of actually what's over here was done as part of that build. The rest of it, there's a small fortress. Oh, this is the thing called Way. Is this the same thing? I incorporated a previous small tower into a much larger structure, which is, I think, a lay. Sokali. Yeah, South Calder Lie. I think that would probably be its name on the map if I wasn't so lazy to look. Yeah, we'll be taking a little look down that way, but it goes back to Crossroad and we don't want to go that way entirely. Let's see what we're looking at. Simple monastery just sat on a shield. We'll go that way in a minute. So yeah, I turned this into a full-blown town instead of just an outpost. This is a military academy. It's the only one I've actually built. You would imagine that there are probably a couple of them throughout the Empire. This one is obviously just responsible for training, helping retrain new... Well, Grey Knights aren't just warriors. They are warriors, but there are other things as well. So, yeah, it's... we're obviously planning something here. But, yeah, you know, obviously I needed something like that. It would be silly not to have some sort of military academy where training is taking place. I think I want to... I mean, I built... That's the stables. This is a hospital. So that's the stables. And I think I meant to put in some sort of archery for here. Because, you know, you're going to need space. If you're a military academy and you're training pikemen and cavalry and archers, then you're going to need space for that. A lot of space. For some reason, the orange concrete, orange terracotta, I think this actually is. Yeah, looks really nice. This flooring. This is the regular terracotta. A little bit faded, I think. I was explaining yesterday that there are no decorative interiors. I don't put chairs and things on walls and stuff. That's a lot of work for a lot of buildings. But there are floors, so although I'm not going into all of them, you're going to be able to look in and you'll see that there are rooms, stairwells to get all the way up and down and so on. Look, a library. Oh wow, yeah, it's nice. Let's see, I should take some of the stuff that's in the Library of Sauron and bring it here. It's yeah, barracks, I think. The dorms, I'm not sure what they would call them for the training. A lot of cows. I bred them all as part of the playing and survival. I've been down underneath. This is Calder Hall, so I've been down underneath this mining, and this was the original structure. I added this when I was doing the infrastructure phase, which I'm still in the middle of. But yeah, getting fancy with the roof on this one. I must have been in a good mood. I think sometimes some buildings would be, they would be benefiting from an interior like that one. Single big space. I don't need to go mental. Just put something up. So this is the Chimera. The goat head / deer head may be a little too cow-like. A little bit more obvious as a goat from the front. I think I got the ears and the horns right. The lion appears to have a pompadour. Oh, it doesn't look too bad from the side. This is one of those things where I could do with coming up with a better stone palette for building these things, so they're a little bit more obvious and distinct from the rest of the ship's body. Clearly getting a better feel for how long a ship should be compared to its depth. Token snake's tail. Typical little mining facility over a ravine. Very fond of that stuff. This was actually a village here. It was broken. We'll cover that in a moment. But yeah, I came along and just did what I usually do, but just did it more elaborately this time. This is the original well. I think there was only one other hut, which would be... It would probably still be here. Probably this library. Yeah, that looks like an original library that I've tweaked. Yeah. We are here. Oh, we want that, I think. Did we go there? I think. Oh, that's Crossroads. Duh. Yeah, so that's Raven Guard and Raven Man. And then Crossroads. We'll actually be going back this way. So we'll come out north of Crossroads. So just a little bit further on from this, we actually come to the end of the Western Empire. I think this is, it's not the most western point, but in terms of having more to explore and build in beyond, we pretty much hit the end of the line. I probably flown out here a couple of times while I was building, but nothing concrete took hold. Now, if this looks suspicious, then you are right to be suspicious, because it is suspicious. Because this is chunk update corruption. And it went from all the way down here, all the way along here, to right up through there. So I rebuilt it all. I think it's hollow. I put in the river here. And, kind of left the underside open. This stuff, this lake, however, is a lot less polished. Yeah, it's not too bad. It seems like I did a... I don't know. There we go. my bad. Not finished. But yeah, you know, as I was saying a little earlier, the extent of the empire doesn't necessarily have to be like the whole, like every inch of the continent, or the section of the continent I've kind of left aside for it. So, you know, I'm probably going to do some stuff over here. There's a ring of mountains where there is a ring of extreme hills, not actual Minecraft mountains. It didn't exist yet, but it's over there, and I keep looking. I think it might be nice to put something in amongst them. This is probably marked for a settlement of some kind. But, you know, that's set aside. Again, I have a notepad that contains all future, not just ideas, but actual, like, this is going to go here. You know, I know where it's going to go. I know what it's going to be. I actually had an idea for something that I haven't written down yet, but it's because I don't have a building. I just have an idea about how to actually build the building and know where to put it. So, although having just said that, it suddenly occurred to me, I could go at Wayorahn. That might work. So this is Kalmar. I purposely skewed the ending there because I was like, no wait, it's not. I think Kalmakti is the name of the moor. Oh, it's called Calder because it's borrowed from the word caldera. Because this original fort is sat over a hole in the ground with a couple of lava pits naturally spawning, so they're quite high, I think. But yeah, from this I derived the whole idea that it was colder, and I feel like I ought to include maybe a volcano somewhere. I just feel like maybe I ought to imply that there's an actual caldera here. But anyway, back to Kalmaktor. Probably the name. So this is one of those mining facilities where it's ongoing, so it's like it's still giving the goods, and they've just built up around it to create a full-blown settlement. This looks like it's actually the processing though. Oh, weird opening for the furnace. Wow. I mean, I like it, but it's like, it's so strange. It's nice. I went on a tour when I downloaded Optifine and I could use shaders, and I came across this and had completely forgotten it was here. And seeing it on the shaders emerge out of the fog, it was just like, and you know, having forgotten about it, it was just like, it's the closest I come to being able to see a build with somebody else's eyes, which is good for me because when I look at it with my own eyes, it's just something I built. I wanted to. I had the idea. I couldn't not do it. Not really. Not when I have the ability to do it. But yeah, once it's done, it's just done. Oh yeah, I went all the way with this one, didn't I? Let's see if I can find the name first. It's a bit close to the other one, having a second facility. Dos Rey. Dios Rey. Name of the person who lived here? That's a really unusual construction. If it's a geographical name, I thought I would have recognized it. So yeah, I actually kind of built a little bit of a mining facility actually into the ravine side. I think it's all open. Yeah, I think you can access it all. I'm pretty good about making sure you can actually get through and around everything. And then, yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots of fun stuff down here, aren't there? And then actually this building is actually, as you see, over another ravine. Which puts us down on the ground, looks like. This is another location that's going to have some work done underground, so that I can actually, you know, anybody that sees or I show it to, it's like, yeah, you know, there's more to it than just this building just sat here marking it. So as you can see, we're now coming out behind those two buildings. At the bottom of the Serpentine, crossroads over there. So at this point we're going to actually have to backtrack a little bit. Oh, I never went down the tunnel. Actually, we're going to have to go on a little detour. Double back over to Wyldetor. Not much to show, but there's basically a series of tunnels to get there. This was done to act as a brake for the horse, so I didn't just go up onto the steps and get caught on the pillar. So you can just slam into the corner and carry on riding. I think this turned out to be quite disappointing. I don't think there was very much down here, but I did go down there eventually. And then you have an old abandoned redoubt again that you know, also in ruins, implying it's very, very old. And again, it may be like what I was saying with the other location, that maybe the people who lived here were a different species. They're not just a Steve and not a villager. Calder's Withdraw. Not quite sure where I was going with this. Maybe probably just a few houses in the base of it. And I'm going to get us back up to the last little junction. And take a longer break. It was pretty clear to me I'm not going to get to the Northern Empire. It's going to take just as long as the Western Empire is. Yeah, so I'm going to need to... I'm probably going to stream tomorrow. It's usually the day that I don't stream. But since I won't be building and haven't built for 2 days, I don't think there's a problem with just having that extra streaming. Alright then. Yeah, I'm back. So let's do this final part. Get her done. This is something that could do with being more neat. I'm not really sure what the thinking was, to be honest. It's like I wanted something more structured for going up and down. It's kind of weird though. And And the river goes that way. We're going to have to go partly this way and then double back. But, yeah, could do with a bridge. Obviously the ground is very shallow, but I really ought to open this up. So this would make no sense. And probably the gate would be make more sense, because basically I would create a larger, like there would be a break where one bridge would go that way and the other bridge would go that way. And you know, we just kind of make more sense of having such a significant structure. Although I think it probably marked a border, most likely. This is a reconstruction of the Rochester Castle in the UK. I was reading about it once, and I think one of the corner towers was destroyed in a siege. And I may be misremembering, but I think it was because of exploding pigs. Now, some of you may not want to hear this, it's pretty grim. So, pig fat, if it gets hot enough, can explode. And they would put pigs down, like they would dig a hole underneath the tower, they would take pigs down there, and they would set them on fire, and they would explode. And that's how they destroyed it. I think this is how they took out the corner of Rochester Castle. And they know that this happened because they actually have an order signed by the king requesting the pigs. And it's just like, what the hell? It's like, why do the pigs have to be alive? Who found out pigs explode if you set them on fire? This is fairly accurate. I think in real life, these rooms, I think these are actually supposed to be rooms. I'm not really sure about the full breakdown of the interior, but I tried to, because the Rochester Castle still stands. And so if you do Googling and you can find floor plans. Remind me to edit that out. Excuse me. But yeah, you can find floor plans for Rochester Castle. Like every single floor is detailed. But there are no images, obviously, not I could find at the time. So I don't quite know how the rooms were arranged, where the walls were. Sometimes there wouldn't be walls. I think there's one tower down here. It's very fond of these very small towers just sitting on the tops of hills. At least this one has the decency to be looking at something. Or looking out across something. I think this is probably, again, one of those regions where I think what might work best is if well, I'll tell you, I've thought about what I will do after this project is finished. I may stop playing, I may move further south. The idea would be that I would pick regions and go, okay, plains biome, desert, probably include the forest. And I go, that's a kingdom. I want infrastructure that goes along with making all of this integrate. So, you want probably a lumber operation of some kind. Wheat fields. So yeah, I mean, this would need to have a proper settlement added to it. It's very barren, like a lot of the plains. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that would be the approach. And I think that's something I could do here. I just go, this is the integrated part. All of this. This is one kingdom. It used to be a separate place. It's now part of the Grey Knight Empire. But, that's what I'm working with. and kind of build around that up to, you know, wherever I'm happy with. I pointed out earlier that square of land underneath the water, which had basically cloned for some reason. Somehow the game cloned a chunk, and it's this bit, I think. Looks about right. Basically cloned it and dumped it here. And it wasn't even the only one that happened. So I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well now. Maybe this. Basically, this was also the same thing. There's a chunk here that was put here, and destroyed the corner block. This one here of this structure, and you can see there's another one over here. It's basically taken an existing part of the terrain and just copied it into another space. I have no idea why it would do this. I haven't seen it happen for a very long time, thankfully. And as I said before, it fortunately never destroyed anything. But yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. So, this one's not going to be named. I know that because I can't remember what its name is. I've got a map. Let me check the map. Canos Shea. That's what it's called. This is a pre-existing village, which has been heavily built up. You can see we've got the well here still, widened to match the roads. That is clearly not had very much done to it, so this would be an original building from the original spawn. Same with that, it's had a little bit of an extension done, but not very much. And then there's a whole bunch of buildings that got added by me. This is the original road system. Early villages had a really bad habit of laying down a road that just had nothing on it, just run off into random directions. I tried to incorporate all of it. Most of it's inside the wall. But the gates are sealed like this because to stop villagers getting out while I was working here. As I've noted before, that never actually works for some reason. I mean, they don't get out, sure, but they get killed. A whole lot of them. Sometimes replace them, but usually... What are you doing in my room? What's in here? Oh, it looks like I did some exploring of some kind while I was here building. But, oh, no, that. Me being a clever dick with redstone, give or take. I wonder if you can cover that with a wall and it will still work. These are on. These should be on. Why are these on? It's supposed to only come on at night. That's the point. Let's find out whether this will block it. Oh, that's nice. You can cover the glass in. Oh, right then. Okay, at night it will now come on. Surely that should be the other way around. Ugh, give up. I don't have much to do with redstone. I really don't understand how it works. So, yeah, you can see resorting back to doing a rail line. You've seen the south in part 1. there is a similar track for the north. The west's track is almost entirely underground and non-existent for most of the Western Territory. Again, like a lot of the West, it's really underdeveloped westward from a certain point. And I will be doing something about that. I can't really leave it exactly like that, but I need to do something. Heading toward the grand finale for this video. We've got the Wayton rather, and this is actually another village. You can see I've played up with the styles, tried to vary things a lot. Looks like got pretty fancy with the older blacksmith, but still very much the old blacksmith. I'm not going too mad with it. Marketplace. The existing church, which has been heavily done up. I mean, I think these are actual villages within the Empire. And the villages exist as part of the Grey Knight Empire, so they would have lived here. And I'm assuming this is theirs. They built this, so it's been incorporated into the Grey Knight Empire. But it's one of the most northwestern builds. I think this tower is the most northwestern thing in the Empire. Pretty standard tower. I put these up when I want somewhere that's supposed to function as a guard tower, I suppose, really. Probably want to do something with that, I imagine. And then I think this little pocket has its own name. Enclavion. My love of not putting windows in. But it's got a door. It's a start. Wayorahn. Or Wayran. Yeah, Wayran. Wayorahn is the name of the state. Wayran is the name of the town. Or city, more precisely. That's the Waymaker. Well, I think one of them, not the first ship I ever built. Probably the first ship in the Empire. Definitely. My plan is to come back here to finish these, and there will probably be a quadrathesia put here. And some farmland. I think that's what it needs to finish this place. So this is a multi-phase build. There's some basic stuff that was put here first, including the Waymaker, the ring building here, the bridge, this tower, and I think probably this. And then everything else was done during the infrastructure phase. Again, boats. I know. Say it with me. I need to build boats. I have built boats. You've seen boats. You're going to see a lot of boats when I do the next part of this video. But yeah, so this I mentioned before. I've pointed out 3 of the 4 oldest buildings in the Empire, and you're looking at the 4th kind of as a whole. And this was the location in the west where I was like, this is the western city of the Empire. and then Edoran or Edenos is the eastern city, and that was where their empire started. I don't know, I was basically like, I'm gonna build everything in between. Oh, I'm turning that off before that goes thunder. Damn. No, that's the daytime. I don't think I've done this very often. An actual overhang where you can just poke your head out on the underside. I sometimes forget that they are floating ships, not just an ordinary boat in the sky, and there would be adaptations and accommodations for the fact that it can float the way it does. Probably one of the few decorated places in the entire empire. Let's see if we can find a way in. Don't ask. Oh, yeah. Let's start a little game of naming the paintings that exist in game. I don't think Igneous Baterius is based on an actual painter or anything like that, just a name I made up. Although Igneous, that would be fire, Baterius. Ooh, what's this one called? Wrath by Igneous Baterius. Probably be called the Wrath of God. I feel like that's God looking down on a landscape and burning it. What's the sword? Probably just the sword. Oops. I'm not sure I'm going the right way now. So, this building is actually a library. We're going there next. I'm going to take this map because I never get there in one go. Yep, there's a view of the whole city, including, yeah, it's the front door. Oh, we need to go this way. Take a look at that. I think there's an enchanting table. Yeah, it's functional. Pretty sure I've used it. Let's go take a look. There's some underground components to this. Yeah, this building here has a road cutting through the middle of it for reasons, just to bring you here. Which I think is a dead end. I don't think you can go anywhere from there, you just have to double back. And then yeah, just a small little settlement to finish it off. I'm sure there's supposed to be... Oh, there we go. A crypt. I may not be happy with it. Can't imagine any other reason why I wouldn't have actually allowed access. Oh, look at that. Cracked stone. I'm not sure how big this is. Where it goes. Barely remember. I actually... What? I'll be honest. I couldn't have told you this was down here. Did you know this was down here? It doesn't look like there's any way to get down except to fall. That can't be right. There must be another way down. I must have walked past it. Okay, this is weird. Okay, that goes up. And there we go. Down. Yeah, this is considerably more extensive than I thought it was going to be when I walked in. Damn it. I remember this now. If you get through this, follow it, you'll eventually come up inside one of the other hills near the main throne room, which we're not going to do because I want to stay down here and see what else is here. Oh, dead end. Too bad. We're looking down on it from up there. I'm assuming there's nothing underneath, no? It just comes to an end. Oh well. That was fun while it lasted. One of my experiments with providing light to the crops without being intrusive, which is kind of a weird thing to say when you're dealing with pumpkin heads. I think this little hovel is called Kirkhaven. Here's a mining facility somewhere. Or am I in the wrong location for that? I don't know. But, yeah, apparently this is back in the days where I was still going pretty crazy with the old decoration. I think I was just spending a lot of time trying to find new ways to do it. You can see that this was built when there was no polished andesite, and these days it would be guaranteed to look like this instead. Let's take a peek at the throne room. This was not quite this big when I first came here, and I'm on the wrong floor. There we go, it's the throne room. This is the water that's actually pouring down the hillside. There's actually a nether portal in here. Part of the old end system. Back when... Oh, I think that you used to be a command block here that can teleport you back and forth. Where's the portal? Yeah, it's part of the original Nether. Gave you access to a rail cart system that would take you from one side to the other. The East Waymar. What am I looking at? Oh, I know where this is. Yeah, this is the... Oh, I see. Different map names. The western half of the Empire and the eastern half of the Waymar. Yeah, so this is obviously the Mordell plus others. And then we're up here, and we're going to go here for the finale for today. And apparently I actually played here. And of course I did, yeah. This is what this is. This is my tower. I used to play in survival coming in here. Anyway, let's go see one of the showstoppers of my empire. One of the ones that's really meant to make people go, ooh. It's not that great anymore. It was also built when there was no andesite. It'd probably benefit from that these days. This is just some markings for things I think ought to be done in the future. Here we go. Rhoman. Rhoman's quite an early build. Rhoman was built before I started streaming, and I was streaming back in 2018. So that was probably about, yeah, it was October 2018, so that's actually 7 years ago now. And the Empire is only 13 years old, so this was probably maybe 8 or 9 years, probably older. Ooh, submarine. There's 3 submarines in the Empire, maybe 4. There may have been a submarine hiding at Unterman yesterday. Very basic, built at a time when there was no waterlogging, so there was a limit on what you could do and still look nice. Not really much design to it, it's just like copying what a submarine looks like in the real world. No real attempt to add anything to it. There's a submarine in a I forget what they call them. The little like there's a name for this kind of building. There's I want to say garage, but it's obviously not a garage. It's got a little bit fancy. It's a pity that it is actually obscured so much. But you can see with obviously these days I would be able to put this underwater and it wouldn't matter. The waterlogging would take care of everything, but including the ladder, which is pretty cool. But you know, at the time that I built this, there was no way to do this underwater. Actually, having said that, I think it would probably be nice to put one of these outside so people can actually see what it looks like. So Rhoman actually can move. It is a floating city. It's not connected to the central stem. Technically, it's not connected to the central stem. I'm not quite sure what that's for. Is that their way of making sure that they're actually aligned? I don't know. Very fancy steam paddle ship. I feel like I did a good job with coming up with a design when you can only use stairs. But it would be nice if you could have vertical slabs so you can expand on the kind of circular designs that you can do. Like, okay, you know, a half-hearted attempt at some realism, making it look like it's a real dock. Let's build on this. Let's do a little extra for this. Where are we going to go with this? Come on, where is it? No. Yeah, functional box. Should be the right thing. There we go. Barrel. That's what we want. There we go. And maybe next year I'll come back and I'll add some chests. This is the original Scorpion ship. Scorpions were the other smaller ships. They're very similar in design actually. It's a nice 2-seater. I don't think those are 2-seaters over at the Wayorahn. Nice. It's a one-off other than that. There are no other like it, even though it was meant to be part of a fleet, so there should technically be dozens of these things flying around. I mean, given the number of flying vehicles, there really ought to be not just ships in the water, but, you know, like I mentioned, I tend to miss the direction that I'm heading when I'm trying to find this place. And it's like that could easily be solved by just building floating ships in the sky that will just lead me or a player across the water and straight to here. It's obviously a military structure. It's meant to have a counterpart in the Edomar. It's actually going to be a box, squarish. I think that may have been replaced by the Unterman. Yeah. But that's going to bring it to the end for today. It was a very unrealistic expectation to also get the North Empire. The North Empire is by far the most decorated and built up area, so it's going to take a while, and I'm probably going to just do another stream tomorrow instead of skipping the day off like normal. The idea of the day off is to give me a break from building and allow me to build a sense of, oh, I've got to get back to that, rather than just keep going day after day after day. But since I've been already doing this for 2 days, part of me is already pretty much, I really want to get back to that. So yeah, I'm going to leave us here, Rhoman. No, I'm not. I'm going to teleport us back to Corran. No, that's still not right. Corran. Teleport us back to Corran. So we're going to... Well, actually, I'm not going to start Corran tomorrow. I'm going to actually start by teleporting to a desert temple in the far northeast called Dunkashane. Which of these numbers was wrong? I think it's this one needs to be a 0. Yep. So obviously this was part of yesterday's video. I'll do a quick run around for no particular reason. I don't know, because it looks nice, maybe. I feel like that's a good enough reason to want to run around it a little bit. Oh look, a little cow doing the maze. You okay? You want a clue cow? I mean, if I really wanted to give you some advice, I would say go find some cud to chew, cow. And yeah, I'm not sure what we would consider a victory condition. If it arrives in the middle, do we cheer? I think middle should be good enough. Oh, that's a dead end. That's right. It's gonna do it. Turn right. No! Nope. Oh, you were so close. That's so sad. I didn't really look properly at a lot of the ground stuff yesterday for some of the things I've done. A lot of beekeeping stuff went in. I put in a dozen bees. Most of them disappeared. Bees have a tendency to fly really far, and if they go too far, they will essentially look for a new hive to go into. They don't track all the way back to their own hive. So these bees that are here, if they weren't so full, they are actually capable of coming out and going through these slits. They will do it, which was impressive. I really wasn't sure it was going to work, but they absolutely went through it. But a lot of the bees just flew off in different directions, and they never found anything, and just never came back again. I couldn't even find some of them. I think a lot of them escaped underground, unfortunately. It's nice. I like it. But they do have names. I don't know if any of them are still floating around. It looks like one at work there. We're going to see his name. Oh, damn it. But it's another theatre. It's not modelled on the Globe Theatre, but it's kind of the same concept. I think this is what the Globe Theatre's main layout is like. It's circular, there's a little bit of the stage, and then there's the ring. I'm not sure. Maybe wrong, very wrong on that. Maybe that actually The stage is literally in the middle. Actually, do you know, I don't think I even went inside yesterday when I was looking at Corran. I really should have done. So they do all have an elemental theme, at least in the front half. The pool was always part of the original build for no good reason. It was only later that I came back and actually redid this. Converting to these elemental themes. And then the rest of it is the traditional stone of the Grey Knights. I think I may have been inside this one yesterday. For some reason I've equated the earth wing with trees and life. I don't know why I've done that. Life is a product of all 4 elements, so I don't know why I've favoured the one. This is so nice though. I was really like, how? How does the sandstone and the prismarine go together so well? So nice. It'd be nice to, well, we're talking about building some sort of dedicated structure for one of the ocean monuments. And to be honest, if I can remember to use this, that would be nice. Wait a minute. Some of these are prismarine and some of them are just sandstone. And that one's not. Oh, weird. Oh, I would probably have liked to have used a dark prismarine wall, but it doesn't exist. And then wait a minute, that was where I was going with it. This is the air. Sky in general. Got Temple of Night. The sky at night, and a very bad attempt at implying stars. Oh, there's tinted glass all over the place to kill off any of the external lights, as much as possible anyway. And then you have the daylight part, including a depiction of the sun. Transitioning into a lot of glass. I'm not quite sure why the overhang's here. It makes no sense. I'll have to get rid of that. And all of these cathedrals are actually based on real world cathedrals. We're currently in a recreation of Westminster. The water temple, or water cathedral, is the Gloucester Cathedral. The fire temple that we're about to go into is Salisbury Cathedral. And the Earth Temple is either Worcester or Winchester. I can never keep it straight. Salisbury Cathedral in real life has a distinction of being the only cathedral left in the UK that has retained its spire. And this is because the architect Christopher Wren, I think, was responsible for St. Paul's Cathedral. He stepped in and added some support internally so that it would stay up. But yeah, after that slightly closer look at Corran, I'm going to draw a line there. We will do the Northern Empire tomorrow. That will be the end of the reviews and the tour. And I'll go back to building in the end Tuesday. Thanks to those who stopped by and lurked and maybe watching this on the VODs later. And perhaps even after that, those who may be watching it on YouTube, if I get that far. Well, there you go.